I was brought up in Asheville, North Carolina, up in the mountains. And so in a way, I felt that once I moved to the city, when I went to the Art Institute in Chicago, that the buildings, living in a city, being surrounded by buildings, was very comforting and similar to living in the mountains. And the buildings themselves, of course, are made out of the material that the mountains are. They're granite and stone and steel. And they sort of envelop you. So New York felt quite at home. I felt from the very beginning when I was painting that I wanted the paintings to be very physical. So I started with painting very heavy impasto paintings and using industrial strength plastics that would be liquid, that would be, could be more or less like fiberglass, things like that. And so working on the lofts with other people, working construction, kind of fit in with what I already knew how to do. And so then I just kind of went into the idea of using some of the materials I found to make the paintings I wanted to make. And well, my influences of using materials like this, I guess it really came from Pollock. When I was growing up, my father had set up a little studio in the basement, and he had always wanted to be an artist, but he was a businessman. He didn't really paint very often. He did when he had a chance. But he had, when I was growing up, a picture from Time magazine, and on the cover was Jackson Pollock. And it was, I think it was so Jack the Dripper. But we loved those paintings. And I remember seeing it and thinking, he just used house paint, which so did Motherwell, so did Franz Klein. Most of the abstract expressionists, besides later de Kooning, they used, he was a house painter, they used those kind of materials for their work. Because they were cheap, and if you're going to work on that scale, that kind of didn't demand expensive oil paints. So it was natural to just use those kinds of paints. And also as an American, when I was growing up, the ethos, was working. My father had a tire shop, and I worked in a shop, and we were physical labor. And I always thought of painting as a kind of physical labor as well. And I think a large part of American art was founded on that. It wasn't the plein air idea of the bourgeois intellectual working on a canvas to achieve this kind of thing. Americans were more hands-on, jeans rolled up, Wild West painting. And that's probably where the bulk of what I do still.